Hey friends, I want to talk about the internet and how to relate to the internet in a way that's generative and alive and fun and playful rather than overwhelming, painful, bad, hurtful. You'll see a lot of people talk about the internet in this way where it's, doom scrolling. You're just scrolling through a lot of things and it's all bad news, or the internet is addictive and painful and people just spend a lot of time, waste a lot of time, etc. And there's a reason that people talk this way. People can see really hurtful things on the internet and can spend too much time doing things that aren't actually life-giving. And my heart kind of breaks when I hear people talk about the internet this way, because I know that there's a better world that's possible. There's a better internet that's possible to participate in. And for context, the internet is pretty new. It depends how you count, but I guess 20, 30, 40 years old. Social media is still very new, 20 years old or so, 25, I don't know, it depends how you count. But the point is, on the scale of human history and the history of life and this planet, it's brand new. It's been like 3 seconds on that scale. And we are still figuring out what the internet is and what it's useful for. I remember when I was reading Henrik Carlson's writing in preparation for my podcast with this is how he described it to his daughter. And I actually used exactly the same metaphor before. I felt so much resonance with how he described it. It's like, hey, there's this alien intelligence that we've just stumbled on and we're still figuring out what to use this technology for. And it's kind of similar to fire in that, we figured out fire whenever we did. And then it took a while to figure out, you can have guns and you can have, flamethrowers and ovens and all of these things that come from having fire. But it took a while to figure out what the sort of second order technologies are. Now that's kind of an unfortunate metaphor because fire can be a weapon and can be damaging, but fire also helps us have food that we can cook things and so on. So I guess the internet's kind of like that. Yeah, some people do waste their time there and some people do focus their time and energy on harmful, damaging things, and so much goodness is possible from the internet. And I really focus my time and energy on using the internet in a way that feels good for me. And I think the most important thing I can say about this is that everyone has to find their own relationship with the internet that feels good for them. You know yourself best. You know what you value. You know what your life is like. You know what your goals are. You know where you're steering in your life. And you have to find a relationship with the internet that feels good for you, that's aligned with those values. And that doesn't come pre-made, right? There isn't some class you can take that tells you, this is how you should use the internet. This is what you in particular should do. There isn't some book you can read that's like, you in particular, George Smith, Sally, whatever, should use the internet in this specific way, because you have to figure that out for yourself. You have to know yourself and know who you are and know what you value and know what you want, know where you're going in your life, and find a way of relating to the internet that feels good for you. And that includes things like which sites you go to and which apps you use and which technologies you use and who you spend time with and how you play with people and what games you like to play, and importantly, what boundaries you have with the internet, right? I have my article on boundaries, and that's been such an important concept for me, and I'm so grateful to Jane for sharing this with me in a way that actually made sense to me. But you have to figure out how much time you want to spend and what you want to give energy to and what you talk about and what you don't talk about and who you share with and how you share. And does it feel good to be public? Does it feel good to be private? Does it feel good to be public in this way or private in that way? And where do you want to share things? And really, how do you want to play? What are the ways of playing that feels good for you? And what are the ways of playing that don't feel good? And iteratively discovering that for yourself, what that relationship is for you. And it's worth putting in this time because the internet is just such a powerful, incredible technology and suite of technologies. It's something that makes it possible to connect with nearly everyone on the planet. We're not yet at 100% human internet coverage, but a majority of people on this planet are connected to this internet. And there are so many friends out there who are just delightful to play with and who stretch our sense of what's possible, that it's worth figuring this out. And just pretty much in every dimension of life, whether it's work or fun or hobbies or romance or, learning about the things you're interested in, whatever it is, the internet is something that if you find this right relationship with it, can just make your life so much better. And I love this. I have put in the work over years to find my own right relationship with the internet. The way that I relate to the internet is not a way that any one specific person could have told me. I've looked up to a lot of people and taken inspiration from a lot of people, but the way I use it is the way I use it, and it's not the same as the way other people use it. And I've had to find that over time. Somebody recently asked me in the DMs, they were like, hey, have you always posted this way and known how to use social media and known how to use it in this playful, alive way? And I was like, heck no. I've been on Twitter since 2007, I think. And you can kind of see the history of my Twitter usage because it's all up there. And like, there were different distinct arcs that I could tell you about. And it's taken a lot of trial and experimentation and failure and doing this and doing that to kind of find this right relationship, this way of relating to the internet that's enlivening, that feels good for me, that's me-shaped, Taschen-shaped, that works for me and meets my needs. And there's a lot of implicit rules and preferences and habits in there that I've developed over time, some of which I could make explicit, some of which I couldn't. And it's taken time and trial and iteration and experimentation to find those ways of relating to internet, relating to the technologies, relating to these websites and these apps and these different ways of sharing myself on the internet that feel good for me. And it's worth doing that experimentation. Everyone has to do it. There's not some prefab way of relating, or there are prefab ways of relating, but they're kind of locally suboptimal or whatever, in that, like, yeah, you can just read the news and scroll a lot or just post pictures of yourself or whatever. I don't know. But like, the ones that are available as defaults, like, aren't that good and aren't that fulfilling. And it's worth experimenting to find the ways of relating that feel good for you, that are enlivening for you, that are you-shaped, that work for you, that are a right relationship for you. And the last thing I'll say about this is that in my experience, participating in the internet is so much more enjoyable and rewarding than lurking. And so some people use the internet in a very passive way where they're just reading the news or just watching other people or just seeing what their friends post or just following conversations that other people are having. And that's fine. Some of us need to go through this stage. And it's scary to participate. It's scary to put yourself out there. But it's worth finding a relationship with participating on the internet that feels good for you and is aligned with your values, because once you make that shift from lurking to participating, it's going to be so much more rewarding, and that you will serendipitously meet people that you want to meet. You will have new ideas. You will have this, like, your life force will come alive because your gifts are being shared in a meaningful way rather than just receiving from the internet. You're also giving and putting things out there. And not only is that a gift for other people and for the world, but you also benefit from that, from putting yourself out there, from seeing how people respond to who you are and how you want to show up in the world. So it's so important to find a way of participating in the internet, not just in relating passively to what's already there, but in making it your own. Like, I think of my website as my home on the internet, and I have very carefully built a web presence, my website, the extended network of things that I post, that feels like mine, that feels like my home on the internet, that is me-shaped, that's Taschen-shaped, that has the things I care about, that is an affordance for me to connect with people that I want to connect with. And so I think it's important to find this relationship that's us-shaped, our own right relationship with the internet, that's not only passive and consumptive, but also participatory, where you are creating things, where you're putting things out there. And there's ways to do that even if it feels scary to participate, you can just share things with your friends or just share things with communities that you're part of. You don't have to make it strictly public to everyone in the world if you're not ready for that. I think that there are degrees between entirely globally public and totally secret and private that are worth finding those gradations that feel good for you. Our language about that isn't very good, but there's actually, 4, 5, 6, 7 different gradations between totally public and totally secret that are various degrees of privacy that you can find and be like, for example, just to name one example, maybe you want to write on the internet, maybe you want to share essays, but it feels scary to talk about the things you want to talk about, quote, publicly and put them out there. So you could just write Google Docs and share them with trusted friends that love you and respect you and dip your toe in the water in that way. And that way you're still connecting to people, but in a way that's safe and honors you where you're at, what you're feeling, what you're needing. And there's certain topics that you just may never want to talk about publicly. That's fine. It's not about being maximally public or becoming a public figure, although if you want that, that's fine. It's about participating. It's about creating. It's about connecting in ways that feel good for you and are not just strictly passive. And each of us has to find our own way of doing that feels good for us. And it's iterative. You may not find it immediately, but it is worth experimenting with and finding over time how you want to connect with the internet, how you want to relate to people, the ways you want to show up that are playful and alive and fun and safe and generative for you, rather than painful or harmful or disrespectful to you, or just passive where you're just consuming things and just receiving. It's overwhelming to just receive information constantly, and that's a stressful way of relating to the internet. And it's an easy way, but it's not a fun way, and it's not life-giving. So I think it's worth experimenting with this, worth playing with it, and finding your own right relationship with the internet over time. I'd be curious to hear what you think and what your experience of this is. Feel free to put it in the comments. I'm sending you a lot of love.